everyone, it's me, Nikki. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. And I'm doing my December wrap-up. That book was not part of it. I was just pointing with it. Let's see. I have to finish out compiling my pile. Wow. Wish I could say that. But... And then I will do another video going over everything. All my stats for the year and stuff. So, let's go. Let me check which one. There's just one I have to check. Okay. So, the first book I read was The Elf Queen of Shannara. This is it says right there, the third in the Heritage of Shannara series. And for some reason, like all of them so far, I can start reading it and I go, I don't know. And then I get about, like, this far in, and I'm like, oh my god, I love it. Why did I even bother not reading it? So this is about Wren Olmsford, and Alanon in the first book told her to go find the elves and return them to the world. Because at some point between the last trilogy and this quadrilogy, the elves just fucked off. They took their city and the tree that everything had and just teleported it somewhere else. There is a map. Let me see if I can find it. What's interesting to me is it's called Morrowind. Now, there is say Lord of the Rings? No, Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, which I think focuses on one of the elves. So I gotta go find out how that, and I think when was this published? 1992, so I gotta find out how that is connected, or like if Morrowind is just like an elvish thing like from Tolkien or something maybe, and everybody borrowed it. So Wren and her friend and, like best friend, father figure, he taught her all the rover ways, Garth, they go to this island, and they have a bit of a journey getting there, because they have to go from here to over here just to get to the island. They run into some trouble, obviously. But they get to somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. But they get to somewhere and they meet a wing rider they're an elf from the other trilogy who broke off from the elves in Arborelon a long time ago, and they fly. I can't remember what they're called, but they fly them. And he's like, I will take you there, but you're gonna die because it's a shit place. And so he takes them there, and he's like, I'll fly around every once in a while, and if I don't see you, I'm not coming back. They have to light a fire or something. And so they get there, and it's a shit place. There's like a volcano erupting, the island's being destroyed, and the elves are like, they don't even have control of the whole island. It's like covered in just things that will fucking murder you. And they do. And the elves just have, I don't even think they have all of Arborelon. Maybe they do. But there used to be like a bigger boundary, and they're just like closing in on this city, and that's how it's been forever for these elves. Some of these elves, that's all they've ever known. They don't even know how they got there. So it's up to Ren to figure out a way to get everybody back to the land of men, and she learned some things along the way. And, yeah. It's not, I would never say, none of these are happy books until, like, the last book, and mainly the ending of the last book, when all the bad things have been fixed for that time period. So this isn't a happy book. Some people do die. Ren does not die. There's a talking cat, does not die, and a cute little creature that attaches to Ren also does not die. Those were very important, I thought, to say. The cat and the little creature. But everybody else is sort of up for grabs. They're all a bit red shirty, if you feel me. And there's just, like, a lot of stuff Ren doesn't understand because she's not one of those elves. She's, like, she basically grew up as a human in the Four Lands. And she's like, I don't understand any of this. So she does her best. She does her best to, you know, fix things and help people, and it just doesn't always go well for her. So, but, yeah. I quite enjoyed it. I think what always gets me is, like, I want them to get there faster, but obviously they have to take the journey because they're on foot or on horses or whatever. So yeah, but once they get there, the stories start. I mean, the story's already going. This is the third book, but you know what I mean? Like, you learn about Ren, and you learn about her connection to the elves and just everything. It's a really great book. I really enjoy the series. I can't wait to finish this quad and continue on. So, next I read... Oh, it's a big book. Hang on, it's right here. The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons. This is the second in the... Oh gosh, I can't remember what the series is called. Chorus of Dragons. So, if this doesn't give it away, it's horses. It's a very horse culture heavy place that we're going to. Jorat, I believe is how it's said. That's how I say it anyway. There's the map. Jorat. And that is their enemies-ish. And this is also in it. This is the icy place. This is swampy? And this is hilly, and it's... Jorat gave me Mongolian vibes. It's like... They don't wander like the Mongols did, but it's very, like... very horse-centric. And they have, like, steppe plains types of things. That was the only Mongol vibes I was feeling for it. It's just the horse thing, and they do have the Great Steppe. So that's where this takes place, and it is once again... Oh, and they also have this lovely city, which seems like a hellscape to draw, let alone walk in. And it is, once again, like the first book, a story within stories within stories. So, the best part is there's a foreword, and it tells you what happened. Not everything that happened in the first book, but if you've forgotten, it gives you the base details and catches you up. And then, Kieran goes to wherever he needs to go to in Jorat to meet oh god, I know their names once I see them. Janelle and it's Qown. And he is a priest in one of the many religious groups, and he was assigned to Janelle to like follow her and give her advice because her grandfather recently died and she was going to inherit. And the great thing about the where's the word to say it? Jorates, is that even though Janelle is a woman, she still has the male title, and they explain it a lot better in the book, but gender and sexuality don't always match up. There's even a thing you can do in Jorat. I don't know if it's just in Jorat, but it's specifically mentioned. One of the characters does it, where you can change your gender. And they had changed their gender from male to female, and they still like women. So, you know, it's very horse, and it's about horse. There's a lot of horse metaphors in there. It's kind of complicated. I might have to reread that. So then they also have regular horses and special horses that are like psychic with each other, and they can talk, but they talk in Jorates, so it's also kind of really cool, actually. So they play a big part in this as well. Anyway, Kieran meets Janelle and Quon. I don't know how to pronounce that at all. And Quon has written a diary. And so he will tell a story, and then Janelle will tell the story. And so it's like a flashback, but you're also in the present, and then it continues into the present, but there's still your little footnotes down at the bottom. I just really enjoy. I really, really enjoy how the story is told. It's a very big book, but it moves pretty quickly. There are some horrible people in this book. And there are dragons in this book. And there's some fantastic people in this book. And there is a time jump somewhere. Much like the first one, there's a time jump, and I still don't remember how long that time jump is. But Kieran had met Janelle. Okay, this is also complicated. When you die in this world, I believe they talk about it in the first book, but it's also talked about here. Your soul sort of like goes to the afterlife. And then, but sometimes you can come back into your body. It's a whole thing. It happened in the first book. But Kieran and Janelle met in the afterlife, and he doesn't remember, and she does, and there's a whole thing about it. But then they're also like the reincarnations of other characters. And the one thing this book does not have is it has a glossary, and it tells you like about everybody. Oh, it does say how to say them. Quon. K-O-W-N is how you say it. Quon. But there's no family tree charts, so they say that so-and-so is related to so-and-so, and then that so-and-so is a reincarnation. I got a little confused about that, so I think, I think I did look at the third book, and there was a bit of a family tree thing. So it does get a little confusing about who's related to who, and who's a reincarnation of who, and how those reincarnations are related. But it's a good thing, and it's an interesting thing, and I love the world building. And I don't know, I just really like this series. I like all the characters. I even like the villains, just because, like, they're like, oh god, no, you are an asshole, this is not the right thing, but you're pretty charming, and I can see how people would go for that. So yeah, and like I said, it's a thick book, but it goes pretty fast, and I'm just into the world and all the people and how they're connected and how these lands are connected, and Jorat is so different. You also see Yor in this book, and they're completely different, and it's different from the first place we saw, wherever that was. I can't remember. I think it was Kirpis up on the top there, not completely sure. And then down here you have Manol, which is jungly and nobody can get to. Oh, it's great. It's great. I recommend this. It's only 5 books, so pretty doable to knock out. I don't want to spoil anything, so. Next, I reread Over Sea and Under Stone by Susan Cooper. The first in the Darkness is Rising series. It is a young adult, middle grade young adult book about the Drew children. Excuse me. It's Simon, Jane, and what's his name? Barney. And they go to Cornwall to visit their uncle, and their parents are off, it's just a vacation, and they find something, and it leads them on a adventure. It's scary at times, between the forces of light and dark, and their Uncle Merriman is on the light side, and the dark is trying to get to the thing before the children. It's really good. There's a dog. Dog is fine. We'll tell you that now. It's good. I like it. Jane does, and I don't. It was my thing with Narnia is that sometimes Susan or Lucy would be like, "Oh no, let's not do that," but it was more like it didn't sit well with me. But when Jane goes, "Oh no, we shouldn't, I'm worried," I actually feel that she's worried about her siblings or about the danger they're involved in. So I like the kid. Simon's he's the oldest, and sometimes he's a bit like and Barney, because he's the youngest, he sort of believes in that stuff more from the get-go than his siblings. But in the end, they all believe and they all help their uncle. And then I read The Dark is Rising, which is the second one, and this one is about a completely new character, Will. He is the 7th son of a 7th son, and he finds out that he is a little more special than perhaps he thought. Again, he is of light, and he has to go on a quest to find, I think it's 6, from what I remember, like sigils, and he would push back the dark a bit, because this is called The Dark is Rising, and he pushes it back, and it's got it's got a huntsman in it. Which one? Not the headless. It's a headless horseman. But this is like, the first one was more Arthurian. This one is a bit more English, not Roman. Like, I don't want to say Celtic, but like just non-imported mythology. That's what I can say. And he has to do this without letting his family know what's happening, and without getting them injured or anything. So, and then I read The Green Witch, which is about Simon, Jane, and Barney, and Will, in this one, and Uncle Merriman. He's sort of the through line in all the books up till now. And do they go back to, I think they go back to Cornwall, the city, the little town they were in the first one. And Simon, Jane, and Barney don't know about Will, but Will knows about them. So, particularly Simon and Barney are like, oh God, who's Will? Why does he know Uncle Merriman? Like, bleh, we don't want him around. And Jane's like, maybe we should be a little nicer. And they're like, bleh, stupid sister. So, this one is about, again, the non-imported mythology, religion. It's like, this one might be more Celtic. The Green Witch. The women of this little town make, I want to say, I don't think it's like kind of like the Wicker Man, but it might just be the whole, just the head. And they talk to it and they wish for things like, oh, I want good grades, or I want this boy to like me, or I want more money. And Jane is kind of weirded out by it, but she goes. She's invited and she goes, and that sort of sets off. It's the Green Witch is not dark or light. It's like earth magic, wild magic, I believe they called it in the book. And wild magic does what wild magic does. It doesn't help the dark or the light, but it's gonna do what it's gonna do. And there's the villain in this. He's like, yeah, I can control wild magic. You, Green Witch, listen to me and do what I want. And I'm like, bro. Wild magic is like Mother Earth. Do not tell Mother Earth or wild magic what to do. So it sort of like sets off some stuff. But Jane is a very important figure in this book, which I quite enjoyed. So yes, I quite enjoyed that Jane was had more of a thing to do in this book. And then the last one I read before the end of the year was The Grey King. It's the last in the series. I've still got some more books. And this one is about Will. And he got sick. I think it says what it is in the book, but I can't remember. And he basically, like, he got so sick, whatever he had learned in book 2 basically got muddled up in his brain. So his family sends him off to Wales, because it's, good country, it'll help with his health and stuff. And then Will remembers what he's supposed to do, and he does it. There is some animal death in this. Some sheep get murdered and a dog gets shot. And that's all the work of the dark. The Grey King, as the title is said, it's like these hills overlooking this town that Will is in, and they call it the Grey King, and it's a whole thing. So a lot of Welsh mythology, I feel like, comes into this one. I don't know a lot about it. And he meets a boy named Bran, who is important to the story. And what else? I think Merriman is in it, but kind of like, you don't really see him. But the light is in a play at that. It's mostly Will and Bran figuring things out and saving the day. So, the last one I have not read yet. I'm kind of sad because I'm like, no, I don't want it to be over. I really liked it, but yeah. And then the last book I read was First Watch by Dale Lucas, The Fifth Ward. I believe there's only 3 books. And I really liked this book. It's tagged as urban fantasy here on Goodreads. Yeah, there's only 3 books. But I don't know. They have orcs, elves, mages, and humans, and dwarves. But they just happen to be in, like, a fantasy city. It kind of gives, I haven't read it, but it kind of gives Terry Pratchett Guard vibes. Like they're just cops in a fantasy city. It's not, I don't think it's as funny as Guards would be. It's very serious. There is death and kidnapping. Our two main characters, Rem, who is a human, and Torval, who is a dwarf. They get beat up. They beat people up. So it's a bloody book, but not like too bloody. Like I said, I enjoyed it. The character, I think what I would have liked is a map, because like it almost seems like the city's circular, with the first ward being in the middle and then it branching out, but I'm not sure. But the fifth ward, they tell you, is like the most dangerous type of thing, and the first ward is of course where all the hoity-toity rich people live. It was a quick read. Torval and Rem Torval doesn't like Rem at first, but then they get along as time goes on. There were some things I did not see coming. Like how it starts, I didn't know that would happen immediately. There's a murder like in chapter 2 or 3 or something, and you're just like, oh Jesus. So yeah, the one thing I will say is that before I say that, Torval does not like orcs. There's a reason why. He tells Rem why, and you can understand it, but he really does not like orcs. And it comes off as pretty racist against orcs. I don't know if that's the right word, because orcs aren't real. But it just... So he does say things that that even Rem is like, ooh, dude. But there's a reason for it. I'm not saying that he should think that, but there's a reason for it. And the thing I was gonna say is that, where is it? What was I saying? Oh, there is, the bad guy. I kind of saw who the bad guy was coming. Like, once I saw him in the book, I was like, oh, he'll probably end up being the bad guy. And he was, which is fine. But I didn't know why he was doing it or how he was doing it, so that was a bit of a shock at the end as well. So yeah, I'll probably pick up the other 2 books, after I finish a bunch of other books. And then I have 3 DNFs this month. I'm very proud of myself. First one is The Dragon's Legacy. It was okay. I guess there aren't dragons in it, which is kind of, or if there are, they're not like, they're more like metaphorical dragons or like dead sleeping dragons. I'm not sure. What I didn't like was there is a glossary at the beginning of the book, and it spoils something that happens like it happens early in the book, the spoiler, but I was like, why would you do that? And then I was reading it, and I wasn't digging it, so I just decided to DNF it. I've got a lot of books that I've got to read, and you can't spend time on books you're not vibing with. So there's that. The next book I DNF'd was Lake's Edge. I was kind of enjoying it. Like, it's about a sister who will do anything to protect her younger brother, and he's got like some kind of darkness that only comes out at nightmares, and this guy says he can fix it. And it was going to turn into a whole like, I hate you but I love you type of thing. I could see it coming, and I didn't want to read it. I don't want to read those right now. I'm not interested. So I just DNF'd it. I'm sure it will be great for somebody else, just not for me. And the final book I DNF'd was The Darkening. I didn't really get that far in. Again, this is not the book for me. There's no map, which I think would have helped. And then the main character makes pretty shitty decisions, like right out the gate, and it gets her in trouble right out the gate. And it's just, you're like, I know you're gonna keep making those shitty decisions, and there's probably a whole nother, cause like she meets the love interest, and it's enemies to lovers, and I'm like, I don't care. I do not like enemies to lovers. Not the way this was going anyway. So yeah, I was just like, you know, sometimes you just have to DNF a book. That's what I've learned. Sometimes you just have to DNF it. So those are the books that I read in December. I felt like I read a lot, even though I DNF'd 3 books. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great new year, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.